Greet you all students of ME Final. This is paper 4 Unit C. After the completion of R. Parthasarthi's poem Exile, now we are going to start his another poem from Rough Passage, and that is Trial. And this is the important poem because the period of exile in England was over. So time is very dominating factor as R. Parthasarthi has depicted in his poems. And here, the relationship between the past and the present. And the focus is on the prominent theme of love and trial. The title is Trial, and the 5 poems are prescribed in your syllabus, students. Mind you, these poems from Trial, the title of these poems, Mortal as I Am. The first poem. The second one is Over the Family Album, and this is the second poem. And now the poem number 7 from Trial is prescribed in your syllabus, that is, It is Night Alone Helps. Then poem number 9, again, it is A Knock on the Door. It is prescribed in your syllabus. And the last poem, It Was the August Heat. So 5 poems from Trial. Is that clear, students? And now we have discussed the significant aspect of his views on the mystery of life and his different kind of experiences while his stay in England, and this is metaphorically. He pointed out that it was the period of exile. As we discussed earlier, multi-dimensional aspect of his life in England, the 30 years, as he himself has pointed out. Now this is really entire, life. The axis of life is love. And all the feeling of frustration, despair, disappointment, this kind of feeling is absolutely over. It will be removed when he thinks of love. Okay, so the first poem, students, so here the focus is on the time. Is that clear? Because we discussed this point earlier also, that these 3 poems from Rough Passage, first is Exile, and second Trial, and the third is Homecoming. Okay, so this is the second part of this poem. Rough Passage is poetic collection, and the poetic diction is also the choice of words and the syntax and the structure part of the poem. So it is also important because the poet has used, he has applied colloquial language. Very simple kind of expression, and the words, they are as if we generally use in day-to-day life, as if the poet, he is having conversation with the readers, and sometimes he talks to himself and he shares his experiences with the readers in very simple language. The words also, the phrases, that's why poetic diction in R. Parthasarthi and other Indian English poets. So in this, now these are the important aspects that we discuss, the discussion, and see the relationship between the past and the present. So this is the point here. Okay, so theme of love, then we have the past and the present, and that makes the trial of human life. So we have, students, metaphor of trial. Yeah, here is the first poem. See, and what is the title of this poem? mortal as I am. Now, the poet, in the beginning, he points out that he does not understand, comprehend the mystery of life. And therefore, he highlights some philosophical aspects also. Critics generally, they have opinion that the focus is on, say, physical love and the sensuousness and all that. I mean, too much emphasis on that. But we have, at the same time, we have some philosophical aspects also, because it is sort of fancy. The poet imagines. So, imagination, remarkable imaginative vision, R. Parthasarthi, he has throughout all these poems. So, here in this, the first part, so the poet, it signifies the end of period of exile. This is the poet, expresses his opinion. What? That the period of exile is over, and this is really unspeakable relief. The poet is overwhelmed with this kind of experiences. Okay, so his return to India, it is really a great achievement for him, and the feeling of jubilance, exuberance, and ecstasy. Now, the reason of ecstasy, now he thinks of love. This is intense delight for him. So, ecstasy of love is focused. Okay, see, have you got it? Love, and yes, I haven't the key to unlock. So all this, I mean, this is so key is very important. See, if you have key metaphorically, it opens all the gateway, all the important aspects, all the important different dimensions for you. The vision is clear. Vision, it gives direction, and through the vision, so through key, you can open everything, all the gates. So gate here in simple terms, but in a way we have, yes, some query, we can have some problems and some issues. So you have key and you can easily open it. It means this riddle is solved. All the puzzles, you can easily solve them. So this is the point the poet here, he has. So the key, this is the love is the important. So focus is on that. And now here, the rainbow, as the poet, he points out the rainbow. See, we have again different, you see the R. Parthasarthi's poems, they are very important from the point of view of, yes, visual images. So here the poet points out that here rainbow shade of beauty. So here beauty is born of love. So these two important aspects that poet has highlighted, rainbow, and see, we have different shades in this. So all these shades, yes, aesthetic experience and poetic excellence. So here, integration of poetic excellence and aesthetic experience of the poet. And it is also, say, reminiscent of John Keats, his sensuousness, when he points us, oh, life of sensation rather than of thought. So the poet here, see the beauty, and see the concept of beauty also, and beauty is born of love. So identical, point of view, that beauty and love, the poet's aesthetic sense in that way. And see the poem, another poem, over the family album. Now it is, technique of reminiscence. The poet, he in a way, he is reminded of the bygone days of his beloved. So the focus is on love, obviously. So he, all the time, he is thinking of his beloved experiences, and the fond memories and wives, and beloved, and as well as his wife in a way. Wife's family album here, and then and her peculiar kind of experiences. So he, in a way, he is obsessed with the kind of experiences of his wife in through the, this is the technique of reminiscence, all the time obsession, and all the time in memory. She is so fascinating, so charming. The poet, yes, he is absolutely all the time. He is so much passionate, and therefore he picks up the album. So, what is the reason here? Yes, his intensity of love for his wife. And that's why he, at the time, in this, so we have pictures depiction of that, in this, that, and the poet, he generally in his memory also. So he, that all the, peculiar type of, time in his school days, and how, she was craving for knowledge, and all this, he has pointed out in these. And yes, you can, here it is, look, and you just have a look, and they're stirred by the, and then, craving for knowledge also, some different kind of experiences she had at that time. This is what, when you just turned, oh, I mean, when you turn over the pages, you tend to memorize, sometimes memorize, and you remember different experiences. And so is the case with the poet. He just turns over the pages, and he different kind of experiences, and he's reminder of that. I mean, uh, particular school days, childhood days, and also, yes, I mean, this is combination of say happiness and sadness, and joy and sorrow. So this is what philosophical aspects of human life. And he's also, reminded of when she was so stirred and moved by sad demise of her father, and she was totally disturbed. This is what here he has pointed out. And so this different kind of experiences. So this is, see, the title itself is suggestive, over the family album, when he picks up, and he, all the, different kind of experience, as if it is pictures depiction, some visual impact prompt for readers also. The important relationship between the past and the present. The poet, when he is reminded of that, and when it is reminiscent of the past time of his wife, particularly, as here, axis of all these poems, students, mind you, is his wife, his beloved. Okay, is that clear? And then, it is night alone. The third poem is his, experiences, different, experiences of love. And as I have just told you that it is reminiscent of John Keats also. When he, and see, both kind of experiences, in which sensuousness, yes, particularly his sensuousness, and the, when we have all the five senses, and great appeal to that, this sense of sight, hearing, smell, and touch. And so this is, but here particularly the poet, the title again. And in the beginning I told you that it is, we have, the poetic diction, in which language is so, I mean, simple, absolutely, as a conversational kind of language, colloquial language, as if he's having conversation with you, he's talking to himself as well as readers. So, night, now the importance of night just for lovemaking. Okay, so, and what is the reason behind it? I mean, the feeling of nostalgia, and the, we have depiction of physical, her physical beauty, his beloved, his wife's physical beauty. So the poet's intense desire of lovemaking. This is what exactly here in this poem. And, the love which is not confined to physical only. But the poet, it's a different kind of experiences highlighted, and his minute observation during night, his sensual love, and all that, in, all the different kind of details he has pointed out here. And this is this kind of, the poet's I mean, when the importance of privacy, this is what he has highlighted. You just have a look. This will be quite easier for you to understand. And when you see in this first different points that here the poets. Okay, so in the first poem, the poet, he points out the significance of his period, the time period of exile which is over. So significance of his return to India. Okay, so focus in on that. And that's why, so this is really the poet's, he's feeling of say jubilance and all this, and then we come to know that, okay, the focus entire emphasis on the ecstasy of love. Okay, so this is the first poem in which, so it will be quite easier for you to comprehend point wise. Then we have say in this second poem, so what is the title? Over the Family Album. And see, when you turn over the pages, different kind of, as if it is so lively, everything is so lively, and your imagination starts working. Okay, and this kind of experience, it can be with everybody anytime. And this is what exactly the poet, when he picks up the album and visualizes and all, and you live and relive with those memories, fond memories. This is what exactly he wants to discuss here. And all, I mean, both kind of experiences. And the time is healer. When in the beginning, childhood carefree life, and you don't have much at the time worries and anxiety or any kind of tension. So this was kind of life in childhood days. And then later on, when he discusses the sad experiences also. For instance, he has pointed out her father's death, and she was so distraught at that time. So time is healer. Okay, so here different kind of experiences. Then we have, as I have just discussed, this third, it is my night alone helps. So depiction of her physical beauty and the poet's intense desire of love for his beloved. So minute observation made by the poet. Then we come to another poem. Now the title of this poem, see here we have fifth one. This is poem, I mean, all the poems, first, second, remember, I mean, seventh and then ninth poem. Okay, now ninth poem, the title of ninth poem, A Knock on the Door. So it is, a very picturesque depiction. And I think it is necessary to make it clear when the poet points out that a knock on the door. And it is just in fancy. It's not actually, it's not in reality. The poet just imagines this, that who is knocking the door? The poet's beloved. She knocks the door and enters. Okay, this form the theme of this moment, forms the theme of this poem. Very small poems, and the language is again very simple, colloquial, conversational kind of language. And the poet, this is the beloved, she knocks the door and enters. So this moment becomes the important for love making. This is what he has highlighted throughout the poem. And only in imagination, okay, fancy, it's just imagination, that he expresses his passion for his beloved, that she enters, and then he starts love making and all that. So the feeling of all the feeling of past frustration and despair, disappointment, it absolutely vanished, disappeared. And the poet is so overwhelmed with the feeling of love. Okay, so here just have a look for your better understanding. It will be quite intelligible for you. So these just in point wise. So the poet's beloved. So this is the moment, very pictures and visual. I mean, R. Parthasarthi's poems, they are very important, remarkable for visual images. And in this, again, we have, when we talk about the picturesque depiction. So this is just, in imagination, the poet's fancy, and he expresses his intensity of love for his beloved. And this, so the idea underlying is that the poet actually, he tends to encapsulate the significant relationship between the past and the present. And see, if you have some nice experiences, it will remove all the despair and frustration. So this is what, okay, his past experiences in the period of exile in England, and all that frustration, the feeling of alienation, it is absolutely removed, vanished. This is what he actually tends to highlight in this poem, a knock on the door. So just in imagination, this is, it must be clear to you. And the fifth part of the poem, of this trial, it was the August heat. So you just have a look of this last poem. Here, we have pictures depiction of such certain kind of visual images. Now, first of all, the picture in Indian, what kind of climate? Scorching heat, unbearable. And at that time, the poet, he is having conversation with his wife. So it is so soothing. See the paradox. On the one hand, the climate is so scorching, absolutely. But the conversation, it really source of happiness, delight for the poet. So this is the final part we have. You just have, point wise, you can very well understand the idea. Then we have, the beloved. Now the first here, that she, asks some questions, and this poem, it begins with some spiritual aspects. The discussion on spirituality. And what was that? See, this is the poem. Yeah, here the last part of the poem, and it was the August heat. Okay, so actually the discussion on the constellation. Now, what is constellation? A group of stars. Zodiac sign you have. So this is, she puts up this question. Actually, what kind of galaxy it is, and what is the meaning of constellation, and how it positively and adversely affects human life. This star, if you star, you have, for instance, Leo, Libra, and all this. This is you. So this is metaphorical significance of that. So the poet, he begins with this kind of spirituality, but the point is that the metaphor. Now the metaphor here, what important metaphor the poet has here pointed out? Yes, that the poet feels that beloved's hand was galaxy, and the fingers, they are telescopic eyes. So these kind of metaphors. Now the point is that this poem, it sums up with materialistic aspects, materialism. This kind of you see, so this feeling of just physical desire, it is just very temporary. These materialistic pursuits, they are temporal. So the poem begins with a spiritual aspect, dimension, and sums up with materialistic and this physical world. Thank you. We'll continue.